Is it selling the easiest product in the world, or is it selling the hardest product in the world? That's still a question I can't answer.
It's interesting because there's the duality of like, yeah, it feels very easy for me to say to everyone like, yes, please come and donate. But to actually go to someone and be like, hey, can you give $1? Can you give $5? Can you give 100? Can you give 7? Like, I'm making the ask.
Finally, he called me back on a Friday afternoon about 4 o'clock, and he said, I have some time in the morning. Come down to Roll Foundation at 8:30 a.m. and I'm kind of mumbling under my breath. Well, it's Saturday, this is my time off. And he says, do you work in charity or not? So come down and see me tomorrow, or just forget my number. And I was like, wow. When we're at the award ceremony of Roll for Roll and the girls are singing, or you're telling the story or something, and then all of a sudden tears start coming in your eyes, and it's like, that's what I do it for, I don't want to be the crybaby on stage in front of 200, 300 people, but at the same time, it's like, damn, that feels good,
Welcome back, everyone, to the Selling with Love podcast. And I'm so excited about the episode that we're going to have today. If you're watching this on YouTube, we have a pro studio set up today because the guest that I'm bringing on is actually based here in Bali, has been working with raising funds for charities, bringing forward initiatives that are supporting young women, helping with mental health locally here, has brought millions of US dollars into Indonesia to support causes and events that truly change people's lives. And I was participating in one of these events last weekend. There was Row for Roll, which was an event where we brought together a ton of people to go kayaking for 12 kilometers. For those of you who measure in miles, I'll let you do the math on that one. But we went ahead and did this long distance kayaking, and in the process raised funds to support young women that are learning some basic skills to become working in the tourism industry, learning basic English, and we've transformed so many lives in the process. And the only unfortunate thing is that, well, now that the event is done, can we do something to keep supporting? I mean, the fundraising doesn't stop. And so 2 things I wanted to do with this episode. Number 1, I want to invite any one of you who have just a few dollars to spare to support a charity. If you're a fan of this podcast, you've gained any value from the interviews that I've been doing for over the last 5 years, and you'd like to give back in a way that truly supports a local community, we're going to put together a link for you to contribute. As low as $5 already makes a difference. But if you go ahead and donate up to $750, you get to sponsor one child that goes out and gets proper education, gets out of extreme poverty, and makes a whole difference. And for everyone who contributes, I'm offering some bonuses for anyone who gives a certain amount. And so when you do make that contribution, make sure to email us back, jason@jasonmarkcampbell.com, so you can see what gifts you are eligible. We have book giveaways, we have courses giveaway, we even have full consultation giveaways for anybody who decides to contribute to this charity. This is going to be my way of giving back in the process. Now, the second part of this conversation, which is what you're here for, is truly digging into sales. When it comes to fundraising, raising funds for charity, there's a big sales role that happens there. And I want to go down into the trenches with my guest today to discuss what are the misconceptions that come around raising funds, giving to charity. What are the elements that most people don't see to make this successful, to maximize impact? And what role does sales play in the whole equation? And perhaps for some of you, you're going to learn a few sales tricks. You're going to see maybe some opportunities where you can give back and develop your sales skills, and so much more. The guest that I'm bringing on today is DJ Denton, a good friend, an amazing person doing some massive contributions here on the podcast. DJ, good to see you.
Yeah, well, you said so much. Firstly, thanks for having me. And Roll for Roll, 4th one, another success. Every year we've managed to uplift 100 young women through that single event, right? This year we've fallen a little bit short on that goal. I think we're at about 88 women when the award ceremony happened. I haven't tallied since. A lot of the participants are, yourself included, out doing that last minute push, the after the event push, trying to hit that target of 100 young women's life changed. And you highlighted on change a life, right? And I think a lot of times that can be kind of generically said, right? Like, we're so saturated donate now, feed a starving kid, donate now, it's going to change a life. How much is it actually doing? We never know, right? But the one thing we can sit here and say is like with Roll Foundation here in Bali in the program Bali Wise, which is what we're supporting, is you identified $750 takes a girl out of extreme poverty, dirt floor poverty, maybe electricity, maybe not. What very likely to experience sexual exploitation. There's, the whole thing of real poverty, right? And bring them into Bali. 6 months accommodation, food, healthy life boundaries is the first thing that most of these girls need. English language development, hospitality and tourism training, and they're now offering digital marketing as well. As we see here in Bali, that's something people can go from, let's say, high school with basic understanding, gain some English, gain some skills on social media and digital marketing, and then all of a sudden enter the work field at double the minimum salary, So, Bali Wise really making a difference, and people's donations really making a difference, hey?
DJ, what you're doing for this part of the world, the contributions that come in from the events that you put together, change literal lives. You get to measure it, you get to track it. And this whole aspect is an entire business. And what I find interesting when the world of fundraising is everybody wants to be a big heart. Everybody wants to like the good feeling of being able to give. But there's also the element of sale that happens when you're raising funds. And a lot of people, as you said, oversaturated, feed a starving child. So I'd be curious for you to give us the landscape of fundraising and charity as a whole right now, because there is a lot of causes that need help and you need to get people's attention. There's resistance to it. And I would love to just hear your perspective on what's happening now.
Well, so I've been doing it for 9 years now here in Bali, and I can't give a overall landscape global, but I can talk about Bali and I can talk about my little world, in my little world, there's a lot of good causes that it's coming from the heart. And I think this is something that probably replicates globally, but people get passionate about something. They fall in love with a kid, they fall in love with a story, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, by putting in action, I've helped this one kid. Now I can help 5 kids. Now I can help 10 kids. But what ends up happening is an individual with that kind of mentality of personally attaching and identifying to the success story of one individual, you actually become very limited. So what happens is they hit up to a certain scale. They got their 10 kids that they're providing education for, and it's consuming literally 16 hours of their day. They're on the edge of burnout. They don't have the skill sets, the marketing, the storytelling, the team to be able to grow it. So they end up hitting a wall, essentially. The 10 kids or take a different story. Maybe it's animals, maybe it's environment, cleaning the plastic. They hit the kilos of plastic. They hit the maximum amount of dogs that can fit on that shelter, or whatever it may be. And that's it. They're now at the wall, and they stay in that grind, right? And I mean, I've been there as well. Maybe sometimes I face that same battle, but I try to look at ways of growth and depersonalize a bit, right? So that way, because if I help 100 girls with this one event, why can't I help 100 more a few months later, right? Or help something else a few months later by depersonalizing, creating professionalism, right? It's basically marketing and sales, right? But it's a product. It's a product we can all believe in, right? What is better than helping humanity, conserving our planet, or helping the animals, whatever it may be, that you're passionate about, it naturally sells. Yeah.
It's interesting. In the model of selling with love, the first love that I tell people to start falling in love with is the impact. And so when you start loving the impact, the difference that what your sales efforts make, it's the first thing you need in place to be able to be effective at selling. And when you think of, doing charity work and charitable contributions, that seems like something that's okay. Of course, it's making an impact. You can see the people you're creating difference for, but sales still probably something that comes with a lot of resistance for anybody who gets into that industry. Do you notice most people who are trying to raise money for foundations don't want to bother too much? Do they have, or do you see people just going out there and selling effortlessly?
Definitely, it takes a lot of effort, right? So I think that is the biggest thing, and that is the break point, right? Is charity cannot be a job. It has to be a lifestyle. It has to be something that you basically dedicate your entire life to. When I first got in the field, it was actually the founder of Roll Foundation. His name was Mike O'Leary. Um, so I was working at an international charity at the time, and I've been trying to get a hold of him for quite some time. And finally, he called me back on a Friday afternoon, about 4 o'clock, and he said, I have some time in the morning. Come down to Roll Foundation at 8:30 a.m. and I'm kind of mumbling under my breath. Well, it's Saturday, this is my time off, and excuse my language on what I'm getting ready to say, but he says, do you work in fucking charity or not? Because if you're like me, there's no days off, I have no friends, and I live for these young girls and making a difference. So come down and see me tomorrow, or just forget my number. And I was like, wow, that's something. And I went down there, obviously. And yeah, I met a guy that really inspired me, inspired me with the change he was making, inspired me with what he was doing for the young women. And at that time, before the household word of zero waste or reducing plastic here in Bali, now it's like so in your face everywhere, the plastic, the pollution, the problems. No real solutions, but problems. And then so Mike, he was very passionate. He started the Zero Waste Center, which is another side of Roll under the umbrella, right? So when we do the Roll for Roll, we're supporting the girls, but on the other side of that is environment. And they were the first one in Bali, and they're still, I think they educate around 3,000 kids a year on proper waste management, permaculture gardens, the breaking down of fabrics and dyeing with natural dyes, just showing that there is a way to dispose of waste somewhat properly. I mean, it's still shipped off island to be recycled because we don't have a recycling center big enough here. But yeah, I feel like I went off on a tangent, like a very original question.
What's funny is when someone that's so aligned to the impact, this is what you live, breathe, this is what you do, you're always around the cause. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you into some of the pinpoints I want to extract when it comes to sales side, because as you mentioned already, like it takes a huge amount of dedication, a lot of energy. And when it comes to selling, going to raise funds, talking to people, asking them to contribute, do you yourself feel any resistance? Is sales something you've always naturally done, or is it a skill you develop?
So I'm a farmer by trade, right? And I think so growing up, my father did what's called custom harvesting, which is basically selling of labor and equipment to farms. Yeah. So I grew up with that as kind of a secondary thing but again, it's almost like it's not a sale, right? It's like, how can I put this, that it's so much more than like what money can buy, like at the end of the day, if you're literally changing a life, literally seeing a sparkle in a young girl's eyes, or like with the mental health facility we do, when you see that change in somebody, like you can't put a dollar sign or a rupiah sign or a euro sign on top of that, right? So it naturally sells itself because it's just, you live it, you breathe it, and you're passionate about it, right? So is it selling the easiest product in the world, or is it selling the hardest product in the world? That's still a question I can't answer.
It's interesting because there's the duality of like, yeah, it feels very easy for me to say to everyone like, yes, please come and donate. But to actually go to someone and be like, hey, can you give $1? Can you give 5? Can you give 100? Can you give 7? Like, I'm making the ask to get people to contribute. I see your role now that your organization is bigger. You're like a sales manager because you're mobilizing all these different people that have to go out and raise funds, and they need a lot of butt kicking to go and actually go. So I'd want to dig into the role you have to play to motivate people to truly do what's necessary to raise funds.
Okay, well, there you have to be like kind of a drill sergeant in a way, right? And you have to pull on the heartstrings, right? I mean, like, let's look at roll for roll, for example, right? Like, without stating the super obvious, but stating the super obvious, we're all Westerners living on a tropical island where we don't necessarily, we're spoiled, whether we want to admit that or not, like myself included, right? So these people that are signing up to do the kayaking, they have resources. They've landed in Bali. They're living a life somewhat of luxury. So I know personally that they have access to raising funds, right? So I need to provide them with the tools. I need them to see the girls. I need them to see the results in one way, shape, or form or another. And it does the work for you, right? But you still have on the other side of that, like the people that have just signed up to have a good time on the kayak, right? Which I don't know my percentiles on that, but those are the ones that are a bit more difficult, and you just have to be persistent, like bang for the buck, right? So we have a sponsorship team, and it's their job to communicate with companies both large and small to include everybody in the mix. Any kind of charity event needs to be really a community event, So that sponsorship team allows us to give bang for the buck. So like with roll for roll, you got the barbecue dinner at Hyatt, you got a brunch at Hyatt, and then you got the kayak rental and the life jackets, a t-shirt, a dry bag, some protein snacks, some electrolyte drinks. Like if you add up the value, it's equal to the minimum amount of funds you need to raise. Now, hopefully that was not your goal. Hopefully your goal was not to raise the minimum and just have some fun, right? Hopefully it was to make a difference. And we just set that number on the events anyways, where it's like a 50-50 thing. So 50% would go to cover costs of the event and 50% would actually go directly to the girls, right? Yeah. That's the event formula, right? And we're getting now where we're seeing a little bit of the corporate side of things, yeah. And what's interesting for a corporate to get involved in charity or somebody, we're able to offer the USA, the Australian tax deductibility, which has helped us a bit. Yeah, it's still that thing. I think you got to find where their passion is, yeah? And you never know who you're talking to, right? So it's actually the biggest donor that has supported any of the projects that I do. Came to me outside of Wanderlust, this is for those that don't know, our little gym space.
Yep.
Not little, it's the biggest gym in Asia, but, and she says, I want to help the mental health facility. And I said, okay. So usually when somebody says they want to help, it's like they want to go buy some colored pencils in a school bag and give it to the kids. You know what I mean? So you never know, right? And I was like, okay. And so as I got to know her, I still had no idea what level of help she wanted to get involved in. And then all of a sudden I sent her a proposal of what it would take me to get the mental health facility off the ground. And it was like, she says, okay, let's do it. And the price tag on that's nearly $250,000 a year, right? And so I'm like, okay, what's this mean, right? And then she's like, yeah, let's go. And so she's the one who allowed me to open it up, and it's now in year 2 of supporting, right? And why it's not costing the company that much, not costing her that much, she still is the backbone of revolutionizing mental health in Indonesia, right? And then if she sees this, she knows who she is. Yeah.
So it's interesting because this seems like someone like has people, you have a brand, like you're known for those, just the way I know DJ is because we work out together. They're doing events regularly, which are for various charities, and it always has like an active lifestyle type of angle. So we get involved and we're always wanting to be supporters for these events. And just being an active member of this community, people naturally will come to you when they want to see impact happen. They will be like, oh yeah, we know you guys are involved. And so there's a great reputation, there's a great brand around Right Reasons and the things that you do. I'd be curious to ask about and of course I know you speak to the pocket in Bali, but I think in fundraising and charities in general, there's a bit of a mistrust element that's been brewing with charities where there's manipulation, fraud,
Uh,
theft, and that I think is more prevalent maybe in the current climate, particularly in America. And I'd be curious if someone wants to contribute, whether this is to these causes or any other charity, are there a lot of green flags you suggest people to look for to make the maximum impact like you guys do?
I mean, number one is just transparency, right? I think you identified the current climate. I mean, Indonesia in general is really looked at is the red flag of charity based on like previous, what do you want to say, politicians. So actually in Indonesia, what's called a yayasan or a foundation. Yayasan translates to foundation. The amount of money that has to go to the charitable side of things is actually very minimal. Yeah, where in America it's vice versa. It's like America is, don't quote me on this, but I want to say 90% needs to go to the cause. Yeah, where here it's 10%. Yeah, so that creates a huge misconception of globally for people who are actually trying to make an impact, right? So if I go knock on a large charity store in Europe or Australia or America, and I'm an Indonesian foundation, for sure we go on the bottom of the list, right? Because the lack of transparency and stuff. But as I mentioned, we've been able to give Australian tax deductibility and American tax deductibility, so that gives us some credibility. So that's the number one thing. And then every charity should have like a bottom line. Yeah. And that transparency should report that bottom line. So what I mean by that, at one point I was in an organization where the goal was to give meals to the needy, right? And so I was able to get one meal down to around 3 US cents. Yeah. Per meal, right? So, 3 cents, right? So it's like, how was I able to do that? It's like food rescue was our thing, right? Collecting surplus food from a lot of the big hotels and stuff like that. And the organization still exists, doing amazing work in all across Asia, actually. Yeah.
So one of them, the transparency level, and I'd want to dig a bit more on that. If I'm looking to contribute and work with an organization, what are things that I should look for as transparency that makes me go like, yes, this is probably one of the good ones?
Okay, so I mean, depending on the level that you want to get involved with that charity, right? If you're talking about a serious donation, for me, serious donation would be around 5,000 US dollars or above, right? So if that kind, you should be able to reach like a upper management, CEO, founder, somebody like that, and have that conversation, right? Kind of like what we're doing now in a way. Just make sure that the passion is there and that kind of stuff. And they will naturally want to show you what the organization is doing, both financially, physically, and I just think of some organizations where it's all combined, So what I mean by that is like there's a spiritual aspect, there's an emotional aspect, the physical, and they're all like working together to create something truly special that you just naturally want to be involved with and want to donate towards, if that makes sense.
Would that be like a church group that's supporting a sort of like local community project?
Not necessarily just church group, right? Like, I don't know. I think for me, I speak from a place where I think that's where I was having trouble identifying before. Like when we were talking about sales, it's like something felt in the soul, right? Like, so when you get involved and you align yourself with such causes or find your real passion, you know what I mean? Like, the transparency, the impact, you just naturally want to grab on, and the information flows freely, right? The information becomes secondary because the visibility is there, right? Like the numbers at the end of the day are not the most important thing, like how we've identified, right? It's being able to see. You not only see it, you feel it, like that's one thing in this line of work that maybe you would have even called me on the stage to and maybe even got you, when we're at the award ceremony of Row for Roll and the girls are singing or you're telling the story or something, and then all of a sudden tears start coming in your eyes, and it's like, that's what I do it for, I don't want to be the crybaby on stage in front of 200, 300 people, but at the same time, it's like, damn, that feels good,
TJ, I know that you have your heart in the right place, but I also know that we spoke a little bit about one of the dark sides of getting into this industry, being overworked, being burnt out, not being able to provide for the team. Because at the end of the day, there's a business to run to make this happen. And so I've noticed that there's a trend in fundraising and charities that speak about 100% of the contribution goes to the cause. And it's almost like whoever's organizing this, marketing this, selling this, which all requires people, project management. Like there's a whole organization that needs to function. And it's almost like, okay, now that you're focused on doing good, you need to be eating breadcrumbs while you support your cause. And I'd want to hold and speak about what is that duality, that balance that happens inside an organization that most people don't see, because you need to make a living. You're moving tons of funds and energy, like money, stored energy is what we speak about. You're responsible for making massive movements of money. And it's like, there's a culture that doesn't even approve that the person that's doing that should be adequately compensated.
Right.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that whole thing.
So any organization that's saying that 100% goes to the cause, it's true. 100% of the money that I raise goes to the cause, right? Because without the people, the cause don't exist, right? So that's the first thing that we have to be really clear about, right? And yeah, it sounds like a good idea, and there is a culture that believes exactly what you said, that everybody behind the scenes is a volunteer. They're all doing it out of the love for their heart, and that's true, that people are doing it for the love, and that is possible to somewhat have an organization that somewhat operates like this. But at the end of the day, those organizations don't grow. They're not successful. And when we look at the most successful ones, it's kind of, I said it earlier, it's like depersonalizing a bit, right? Like I can personalize, I can cry on the stage or feel the emotion, right? But at the end of the day, I have to be able to go, all right, it's 100 girls. How can I do 1,000? Or it's 1,000 people a month with our mental health facility that we're impacting. How are we going to get to 10,000? How are we going to get to the neighboring island, right? And the only way that I would be able to do that is I have 2 boys, 2 sons, a wife. Our team varies in size. It's a small team of like 8, 10 people. And they all are local Indonesian residents. They need a salary, of course. They need to survive. They need medical insurance. They need all the basics, right? They need to put petrol in their motorbike the same way that everybody else does, And so I think inside my true belief is that a person should be able to make a living helping other people, right? Now, it's not going to be a glamorous lifestyle by any means, but I'm a true believer in like the Bolognese way and like karma, like if I just keep showing up and doing the best I can and passing on the stored energy. I love what you just said, passing on the stored energy to a place that could use it maybe more so than I can, that the good things will come to me as well, and to my boys and to the team that allows this to happen. And when I say that, it's proven true tenfold, like you identified a bit on that as well, like the community that now trusts us, follows us, and it's not like I don't believe that they're part of our movement, but we're in a movement together, right? And it's like we're trying to get better physically, which naturally transpires to mentally, and whether we want to believe that or not, I believe there's a spiritual aspect of that as well, and then emotionally as well. So when all that is happening and you're getting better, you've dragged along everybody with you, and so that's the movement, and that's what should be possible working in this field, right? I hope so.
I sure hope so. And one thing that's very interesting for people listening to this podcast, sales often is a skill that feels daunting especially if you're selling yourself, your own product and services. And that's a core focus of what we speak about here. But I find that for anybody who has kind of fear of picking up the phone, fear of knocking door to door with their own product or service or reaching out to people, I find that there's an immense potential to collaborate with charities and fundraisers to practice sales skills. Is that often a skill that is demanded or asked for to support organization? Is somebody that's just willing to go knock on doors, to go, pick up the phone, go to local organizations to get sponsorship? And is that a way that people can really sharpen their own sales and communication skills?
I would say 100%, because again, I still can't answer that question. Is it the best product or the worst product to sell, right? So the thing is, like here in Indonesia with work regulations and all that, it's not the ideal place, but anywhere in the world, it could be, right? And we do have some interns that come out of Holland. So we stay quite busy with them, providing them with that skill set, getting them, and it's cold calls, yeah, it's cold emails, and then it's knocking on the doors, and the thing is, like at the end of the day, what are we offering for the company? A bit of visibility, around what I would call a prestigious market, right? Because the people who tend to join fundraisers or buy the gala dinner tickets or whatever it may be do tend to be business owners and people, so you are exposing your brand to something worthwhile. But at the same time, the companies are really doing it from their heart as well, right? They can see that the difference is being made. Yeah. I think for a while, like I would look at the mental health facility as an example. So we did mountain climb. It's called Freedom Summit, and that secured the facility, the first one back in 2021. And then we followed that up with like a dinner and some 4x48 that we do at Wanderlust and all these activities, right? And in general, we were probably raising a bit over 100,000 Australian dollars a year for that organization already. And people were probably going like, what's happening here? Like there's only a little bit of counseling happening. There was the suicide prevention hotline opening up and then shutting down resources a little bit. But what happened was there was 4,000 people a day trying to reach that suicide hotline. We didn't have the resources to handle it, right? And the thing is that like for that mental health facility, I identified the number earlier, right? It's nearly like, and if we're talking rupiah, it's like 2 billion rupiah to keep the doors open only of the mental health facility, right? So the thing was, with my events, it wasn't sustainable, right? We were producing income, but then it's like you hire a big team to be able to handle the demand. All of a sudden, the next event don't do what you think it's going to do. Oh, well, we need to cut back on the team, Mm-hmm. So that's where that corporate sponsor came in, made a really big difference, And it's once you have the machine going, now it becomes much easier to sell, right? So now the sponsors can see it. The visibility is clear, right? So for that intern or for that person that is new to sales, make sure that the organization has those key things: the transparency, the impact, they're visible. You can feel it. You can go in like both that we've talked about so far being Boliwise program. You can go in there any day of the week, Monday to Friday. There's going to be anywhere between 40 and 60 girls getting an education. You can meet them firsthand. There they are. It's in your face. You feel it. The mental health facility, same thing. You can go in there Monday to Friday. People in the counseling rooms. There could be a support group going on. There's something going on. And when you're there and you see it, you realize the people need help, right? And they're getting the help that they need. And they otherwise would not have been able to do that. And you feel all of that without anybody having to explain, right? Mm. And so that's what you're looking for. And if you feel it, you can sell it. Yeah.
There seems to be this like Goldilocks size for an organization that does contributions and fundraising, whereas like if you don't have your basic system in place, like you can help 1 to 2 people, maybe yourself, But then you need kind of some structure, some management, you need a team, you need some resources to support that team. So you need to grow beyond the individual, and that makes it so that you can't be a tiny organization. You'll be limited in impact, but you have to put those management principles in space. But then on the other side is like, there's these giant world-class NGOs, fundraisers. I'm thinking about like the,
World Food Organization.
That's it,
Red
right?
Cross.
Red Cross. What's the role of these giants versus the space that you play in that's in a smaller scale? And is there something like, it seems like in this conversation, it feels like working with smaller charities is more impactful, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
100%. And it's just like, I mean, I could go on about that for a while, right? But so when organizations such as the Red Cross, World Food Organization, when they do disaster relief, for example, part of their procedures is 30% of the money is going to go to waste. They already know that, right? So like, let's use Bali or Indonesia as an example. I'm a Westerner. I show up here. I don't know how much things cost, right? So we're going to be buying rice. We're going to be buying things to relieve whatever the situation. Let's say it's an earthquake. There's some liquefaction. There's housing issues. We need to buy tents, like tarps. And you know how it is here, right? Like, you can go to a local shop where things are not clearly priced, yeah, and you're going to be buying in bulk, and you're going to be buying a lot of it, which should give you buying power. But the thing is, you don't know how much it costs. You're not familiar with even the currency that's in your hand. You know what I mean? So they say, okay, 30% is going to just basically vanish, right? Not necessarily. I mean, somebody's benefiting. It's going in somebody's pockets. So somebody's getting that stored energy. But as
Energy surplus.
yeah. But at the same time, when you're donating to a small organization, you can really see, and like Roll Foundation, for Bali, that would be a big organization, right? Turns over quite a bit of money in a year. And the thing is, it's still small enough where that cup of coffee, rather than having that $5 cup of coffee, you donate that $5. You can still, what $5 does at Roll Foundation, basically we have laptops that need service and stuff to maintain. $5 provides a laptop for a young girl for a 6-month course. Yeah. So it's like, whatever amount you donate is still going to make a difference in a small way, right? And you said it earlier, $750 changes one life, right? And when we say changes one life, there's 2 statistics I wanted to highlight here with the Bali Wise program. So 87.5% success rate of long-term employment, fair job placement. So what I'm saying here is, these girls, they come into the program, they get 6 months education and internship into the job, but they keep the job, right? Then once they're in that job, they send 33% of their income back to the village. Yeah. And for a lot of people, I mean, I can only think of my community back in the Midwest of America. When I say poverty, they don't know what Indonesian poverty looks like. It's a different beast, right? There's no welfare system over here. So when these girls, when I say they're sending 33% of their income, first you have to understand they're only making maybe $400 a month, right? So they're sending 130 of that back to the village, right? So they got the discipline and the like self-control to live off of $260 a month, and then send the 130 back to empower a brother, to empower a sister, to make sure mom has access to clean drinking water. That's the kind of difference that is being made with like these small organizations in third world countries. So if I could encourage anything for the people out there, it's like, go and see it firsthand and see what you can do. Like, we're coming from a place of privilege, and a little bit goes a long ways. Yeah?
And the efforts that you've been doing with your group to bring that awareness, to mobilize these forces, these funds, to shift that energy, it's super fascinating. And I'd be curious, like, how did you even get yourself into a position where your life mission is around charity, fundraising. What does it take for someone to make that life decision?
Wow, good question. Great question, and I wish I had a firm answer. So, the best thing I can say, the best answer I can come up with is right place, right time. Yeah. So, I was given an opportunity by a great man to start an organization here in Indonesia, and I took that, and I was able to succeed a bit, but I was also experiencing personal mental health issues and stuff at the same time. I was able to grow the business, that farmer background, the work ethic and stuff, it transpired there. But at the same time, I was emotionally, mentally, physically, all spiritually unwell, right? And so at some point that all came crumbling down. And what I found was that when I put my hand out for help for the first time in my life as a man, right? Like I was always the farmer lifestyle. It's like work hard, play hard, man up, like if you got a problem, trudge through it. And the thing was, like it was a problem I couldn't trudge through, and I put my hand up for help, and I got that help, and it just showed me that when we get vulnerable and we're actually honest with ourselves around other people, that help is everywhere, right? The help we need is right there as long as we're able to show the hand, the real hand, We're not playing poker. We're showing like, hey, I need help, And so in that process, I had been in a position where I was helping people and it felt good, right? And so at that point I was like, how can I be even more helpful? And I was surrounded by people that had their hand out trying to do good, right? And I thought, all right, let's see if I can help them. And the fact of the matter was, within a short amount of time, I found I was helping a lot of people. And once that happened, it's like, all right, now I have to sustain myself as well. So just came up with a formula, where basically the more that we're able to give to the charity, the less we take. Does that make sense? So if we're raising a lot of money for the charity, then we only take a small percent. If we both work together very hard and it's a non-successful event, we have to take a little bit larger percent, because at the end of the day, I take all the risk, and I take, I'm the one putting the team, the money up and all of that stuff. If it falls short, you still have everything that you started with. I'm the one who has to pay for that, right? I paid the months of salaries. I paid the rent. I paid the electricity. I paid for the workers, like roll for roll, for example. I not counting the hotel employees, yeah, because that would skyrocket the number. But I think it's somewhere around 200 people were working behind the scenes to make that event possible, So it's like, that's a huge, huge operation, right? You have the lifeguards, you have the boats, you have the kayaks getting to the scene. There's just so much that we don't think about, right? The t-shirts being printed, the delivery of the t-shirts, the list is long, right? Yeah. And so it's like, what to say on that? We take the risk for you, but again, if it's something you believe in, it's worth taking that risk. At the end of the day, knock on wood, like we've always been able, every event we've ever done, every charity we've ever backed, we've been able to like meet our goals, right? And that's just because we don't give up. It's what we're doing here right now, right?
Honestly, I'm so grateful to have your time, your energy coming to share. And honestly, for everybody listening in, I wanted to have this conversation for such a long time. And I wanted this to showcase to you an example of what happens when you're so sold on loving your impact. See, once you have that clarity of the impact that you make in the people you serve, their lives, and in this case, for the people that are being served by the charity, for the ripple effect that it creates. You've heard the stories that these young women that get the education, that go and get these jobs, are creating a ripple in their villages that is allowing them to raise outside of extreme poverty, to give a chance to brothers, sisters, relatives, and everyone else in the community, just from the one act that came from you making the sale to raise the funds to support one person. and then for your own personal impact. For those who are familiar with selling with love, these are the foundations that you have to start with. And if you know that you can show up, you can support yourself, your two sons, your wife, modestly, and keep doing a work that you know makes a difference, every other piece of the sale, of the business, takes care of itself. Because when you're so clear on the why, the impact, then you start to love the client, you start to love the product, and you learn the process, and you love the process of selling. Whether that's putting together teams that goes to local businesses to make sure that they're on board, they're contributing, whether it's products or monetary value, you're putting together the teams that are going out there and selling, raising funds, you're equipping them with the right tools, you're making sure they have the sites, the checkout systems, all of the stuff that goes behind making these charities possible. Everything falls into place because you're crystal clear on the impact. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I want to do from this conversation, is to just get people to understand that if the impact isn't clear, every step should be taken to get clearer to that impact. And I want to encourage everyone, if you are not involved with any kind of nonprofit, in a way that you can contribute funds, in a way that you can contribute energy, time, go and learn to sell. Find a local charity. If you want to get involved in some capacity, going door to door, asking to raise funds for a local charity, picking up the phone, raising funds. These are all skills that you will develop that will make you better at sales, which will completely support you and elevate your standard of living, because you will have more success learning this skill, and you'll get to support a local cause, and you'll elevate your brand within your local community as someone that can show up and do some amazing things. And if you want to be able to contribute and do so much more from just listening to this amazing conversation, we would love for you to support Roll and be able to support this foundation to be able to raise funds and really make a big difference here in Bali, Indonesia. DJ, it was such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for sharing, contributing, the impact you make, the efforts you make, everything that you've put together. It's truly an honor to see you show up everywhere and every day for the things that you believe in. And this was a fantastic conversation.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Thank you for being a part. Hopefully, as you said, we'll get a few donations, hopefully a few questions coming your way, a few people wanting to take a holiday to Bali, and come see us, come see the work firsthand, see how you can get involved.
That would be fantastic. What I'm going to leave everyone with is, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that there were some prizes for those of you who do contribute. And we're going to keep this episode open so that at any time you make this contribution, this is going to be one of the secret things that happen at the end of this episode. And here's what will happen depending on how much you contribute to the Row for Roll. If you give $25, you will get a copy of Selling with Love that will be sent for you for free, and you'll get a chance to go through the principles of selling with love. If you donate $99 or more, you will receive for free the Selling with Love challenge, which will be put into your account, and you can learn how to master the 5 loves of selling in your own business. If you donate $250, we have a program which is a Selling for Love mastery for coaches. If you're a coach and you want to learn how to sell more effectively your product and services, this is a program that is specifically designed for you. And if you make a contribution to this charity for $250 or more, you will be granted this program for free. And for those who contribute $750, which is the entire sponsorship, 6 months for one individual to go through this educational program, I will do a one-on-one consultation with you where we will review your business, set up an audit, and make sure that you are set up to sell with love, generate more revenue, more profit, and be able to do it with fun, with the right clients. And in the process, you will have contributed to somebody's life, which is transforming right here in Indonesia. DJ, thanks again for coming on the show. This was fantastic. And for those of you who are here, link is in the show notes and on the description where you can find a way to donate. And as soon as you've made that contribution, simply email jason@jasonmarkcampbell.com, and we're going to make sure to send you all those bonuses and more. Take care, everyone. And thanks for tuning in to Selling with Love. Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.